Hi, yeah, so afternoon everyone, post-lunch session. I'm Beck Rumbul. I am Executive Director and CEO of the Rust Foundation. Please don't ask me why they gave me two titles. I still don't know. Rust Foundation is an international nonprofit and trade association, and we exist to steward and support the Rust programming language. Firstly, thank you very much, Amanda, for inviting me here today, and also for the heroic effort in pulling today together. I was on the phone to Amanda at midnight on Tuesday talking about this, so there's been an enormous amount of work put in. This is an incredibly important event. It's super interesting, but it's really important because I think we're trailing a little bit behind in the UK on some of these issues. So I'm here because I believe very passionately in open source, and I want it to work for all of its many and varied stakeholders. It touches all of our lives, as we've heard a lot today, but there are very conflicting views, ideologies, and approaches. So even though we all inhabit this space, and a lot of stakeholders believe here that collaboration and good faith is the way forward. That's not going to be the easiest thing in the world to do. It's not just like we can say, let's collaborate because we all have the same goals and the same ideas. That's not going to be the case. So I don't think we can approach anything here on the assumption that, as Amanda said, we're gonna hold hands and think kumbaya. As ED of the Rust Foundation, I've got a very keen interest in ensuring that Rust programming language is safe, secure, and sustainable. It needs to be a growing and evolving language, and it needs, most importantly, to deliver on its safety and security promises. And it needs to be properly supported to do that, and so that we can keep using it into the future. So good security is core to making that goal a reality. And I'm really lucky to be able to champion a language like Rust because it does have those amazing security features already baked into some of it. It's got excellent memory safety, it's got a really friendly compiler, all of this is already there for people that are using it. And those features already prevent quite a lot of the things that have caused some of the superbugs in the past. But it's not infallible, It upsets me and scares me a little bit sometimes when journalists say, oh, but just use Rust because that's totally secure, right? Not quite. Every language is going to have its vulnerabilities. Just because we have memory safety, it doesn't mean there aren't other vulnerabilities. I also need to be careful that we don't overpromise and that people don't assume just because we're using Rust, then we're good. There's an awful lot of security work that needs to go on here. The thing is, it's not a one-time or repetitive activity. Security, you don't just do it once and you're like, we're good. Security is an ongoing thing. Obviously, Rust is an open source language. It's open to anyone, anywhere in the world, to use, to contribute, to maintain. Anyone can choose to be part of any of those Rust communities. And that's, as I think everyone here agrees, that's one of the biggest strengths of open source, that it can draw from committed, passionate innovators, regardless of nationality, background, or anything else. And again, as other people have said, a lot of those maintainers are not paid. Some of them are in jobs, some of them are not. They mostly experiment, they contribute out of pure personal interest, they share and collaborate because they have fun with the code. Security discussions tend to be very serious, but most maintainers, certainly in this area, they come to it because they have a lot of fun coding. And you start talking to them about security and they're like, we need to make sure that in efforts to improve security, we're not completely turning off the very people that we rely on to help build our languages. As a couple of people have said, the problem of the two Steves, unfortunately, things can very quickly become unwieldy. If you've written a fun bit of code and you've thrown it up there, and a couple of other people come along and say, oh, that solves a really great problem, I'm going to use that. The first one or two people that use it, you're thinking, great, awesome. but then maybe multinationals come along and use it in their products, and all of a sudden you're going to be overwhelmed. You might have written that as a fun side project that you did on a Sunday afternoon, and all of a sudden you're potentially getting overwhelming amounts of communications from all over the world with people saying they want new features, or they want you to make an update, or there's a bug and they want you to fix it. And that's too much for a lot of people. We can't simply assume that the authors of all of these projects and the original code have the capacity, the will, or the ability even to manage some of those requests. Writing a little code and simply allowing anyone else to use it does not obligate you to be responsible for it forever. And it's great that a lot of the work that OpenUK are doing is pushing that responsibility into the people that are using this. But that mindset isn't set yet. An awful lot of people still think, well, if you wrote it, then you're responsible for it. If your code's vulnerable, then it's on you to fix it. It's not. It's absolutely not. And we can't expect that will ever be the case. What we can do is try and work with people who are creating a lot of this code to try and bake in some of those security features, to try and instill good hygiene from the start. We need a more holistic approach to that, though, and it needs to work with the unique culture, the values of the maintainer community as well, because they don't care about your economic value. They don't care about the number necessarily that the policymakers are going to be tossing around in their meetings about this. A lot of them don't care about any of that. They just care about what they want to do in their project that they're interested in. So there needs to be an acknowledgement that this is a different space with different values and different cultural behaviors and values. So we've heard a lot about how to make security better today, and 100% invest in that. It's good for everyone. But for my part, at the Rust Foundation, we have a very unique and very close relationship with our maintainers. We're not the Linux Foundation. We are a kind of very small, startup, scrappy kind of organization at the moment. Rust is a young language, and we're a very young foundation. We've only been going about 18 months, less than 2 years. So we're working very, very closely with our maintainer community, and it's their experience that I really want to champion here, because I don't think regulation down the line, I don't think policy levers are going to do very much unless you've got the buy-in and a feeling of ownership from the maintainer community itself. And in order to get that, I think you need people that actually understand that work with these people, that are these people, to be able to feed into those processes. Before I was at the Rust Foundation, I've done a lot of work in politics, along policy areas, and across sectors. It's my experience that government regulation is developed with kind of the same old stakeholders. You've got your political ideologists, and here in the UK, your SPADs. You've got some academics, you've got some big business lobbyists. You very rarely got the people that these policy instruments are going to directly affect. And someone, I can't remember who mentioned earlier, we should have an RFC process maybe around this, because maintainers aren't going to come to gov.uk and answer your consultation about this. They're just not. You need to be working with people that actually understand this. Any kind of top-down security design process that happens without that, I think, is going to fall over really quickly. There are puzzle pieces that won't be part of that, which means that people just won't do it, or they'll disengage, or they'll go somewhere else. They will find a workaround rather than do something that is very, very clearly against their experience. So I think this is one of the places where foundations like the Rust Foundation and like the other foundations, Eclipse, Linux, these are organizations that exist to see the maintainer communities flourish. And we know a huge part of that is good security. We know that we need to invest in security, and we need to educate our maintainers. We need to support them to do things that are good for the language, like having improved security. Because obviously if we don't, then the Rust programming language, for instance, it will lose confidence. It will fall into decline. No one wants to use a language that has been demonstrated to be fundamentally insecure. It's in our interests to be part of this, and it's in our interests to help make sure that these things are done well. And the thing with the maintainer communities is that we can work with them like government will never be able to do. We can represent some of their views. We can actually integrate them in some of those processes. We can get them in the right rooms to have these conversations. One of the most important things, and I'm British, so I'm not supposed to talk about money, but money. One of the most important things that we can do is target funding to the right place so that we can make sure that these things work properly, that they're built with the future in mind. It's not just, because security is not just about hiring a security guard. It's about examining the whole structure and building security practice into it. So as Amanda said, we're very, very grateful at the Rust Foundation to OpenSSF, the Alpha Omega project, for providing us with funding to hire a security engineer. This is huge for us. It's the first really good piece of proactive work that we're going to be able to do in the ecosystem. But that doesn't just solve security. We can't just hire a security engineer on a one-year contract and say, okay, we're done. Let's move on to the next thing. We have to have additional resources to make sure that that security engineer and all of the things that they do, can be designed and implemented. The security guards that are standing outside this building, you would not expect them to identify a security risk, but then design a new locking system for the building and implement it themselves. You need other people and other expertise to be complementary to that. So security engineer is the first building block, but we need a lot more help and a lot more ongoing help to make sure that we can actually implement the right fixes. We need that funding, we need funding to continue. We need to make sure that this is a kind of sustainable, ongoing thing, because if we aren't able to continue funding those roles, then security is not going to keep pace with innovation. We're obviously grateful, and we get a lot of support from a lot of tech companies to support the maintainers and to support our work and to support our infrastructure. A lot of these do their own Rust security work, but that's kind of behind closed doors. We don't really know what's going on there. They rightly are pursuing and prioritizing their own interests in directing security work. So we can't assume that is being done for the benefit of the whole ecosystem. We therefore need a better model of collaborating on this as well. The thing with funding is that, big tech rather likes to nudge up salaries to the point where, as a nonprofit, it's really hard to hire anyone really experienced in these areas. They're niche anyway, and big tech rather kind of hoovers up all of the really experienced people. So there's kind of wage inflation that we are concerned with as well. Which makes security even more expensive. So we really want to work with all people. We want to maybe try and bring some of that security work that's happening inside of places into the public, into the open, so that we can do a more kind of coordinated approach. And we need governments and corporates to work together and with us to figure out how to move forward there, because there are big decisions to be made here too. It's not just about working together to achieve a goal. It's about figuring out what the trade-offs are. We haven't, I don't think, really talked about it much today, but in a lot of instances, improved security will mean an impact on speed or performance or operations. There are some trade-offs here that there needs to be serious conversations about. Again, having someone say, you just need to make this more secure, might be a case of, well, we can, but it's going to slow it right down. So is that a deal breaker for anyone that then wants to use that language for their products? These are, these are kind of additional things that are going to affect how we actually do things in practice going forward. So without clear engagement with all parties, we're really going to struggle. But I'm almost out of time. I just want to say, even though these are going to be issues and it's going to be sticky, I'm really optimistic. A year ago, OSS security was not a big thing. No one was, people were talking about it behind closed doors and in hushed tones. It's actually, there's so much momentum now. It's super encouraging, and I'm really excited to see how we all take this forward. So yeah, the Rust Foundation is here to help with this, to push this forward. We're very invested in it. Come and speak to me if you would like to, or drop me a line online. But yeah, really, really looking forward to seeing where this goes, and thank you very much.